What it is, y'all already know, man. We back at it again. We got you for another update of what's going on with the whole FBG duck case. We know Trench's News was in court yesterday. He took the stand once again and he testified against another person. This is gonna shock you, man. There's records coming out that Trench's News was already known to be an informant where he allegedly had already snitched. But if it's on the record, it's not even allegedly. It's proven he snitched on a police officer that was crooked out in Chicago, that was doing bad things like, taking other people's money, planning fake narcotics on certain savages, pretty much beating them up, dropping them off at the ops area, and just pretty much just riding around like he was Denzel Washington from Training Day. And we had Trench's News pretty much bring it to the feds, and they did an investigation and audit on that police officer, that CPD officer, and he was fired and charged with corruption, man, as a law enforcement officer. So that's crazy. Trench's News had already been in the radar of the feds working with them. They already had Trench's News as one of their favorite rats in the Chirac area. If anything, the feds ever needed something, they already had Trench's News phone number in a little notebook. But before we get to exactly what was said in court yesterday, let's hit that like button. Click that like button right now so y'all can let us know y'all want more coverage on this story. Y'all already know, man. We here to let y'all know the insights. We got someone inside that courtroom that comes, in my DMs, in my emails, and lets us know a lot of details of what was said or what happened that day in court. So hit the like button. Y'all want more and more updates throughout the week. Y'all already know. Okay, so yesterday Trench's News took the stand, man. He let everybody in the court know that he is a reliable source when it comes to him telling law enforcement or telling the feds real actual crimes, man. And one of them being the officer who was a sergeant. Years ago, he was a sergeant in Chicago Police Department and ended up being investigated and arrested thanks to Trench's News, the neighborhood hero. The officer's name was Ronald Watts. Ronald Watts, had a lot of coverage from the news and was on newspaper, the internet, when his arrest, was official, that they was gonna charge him for all the crimes he was doing against civilians, I guess, / inmates / convicts, was all, pretty much set up, backdoored, planned out by Mr. Ronald Watt, the officer. So not only does Trench's News, snitch on the ops, but he also snitched on the criminals in blue suits and uniforms as well. And the reason why Trench's News admitted in court yesterday that, why he was the main source to get this police officer fired and charged was because Ronald Watts, the sergeant, had once came into an occasion where he saw Trench's News, pulled him over, pushed him against the fence, frisked, searched him down, found some money that Trench's News had on him. And Trench's News then goes to say that Ronald Watts, the officer, then asked him, "Do you want to go to jail or do you want to give me your money?" So Trench's News was fed up with this guy. He had already heard about this crooked officer, man, and he spoke up and said, "I'd rather go to jail. You ain't taking my money, man." That's his whole life savings that he's been, saving and saving in a shoebox underneath his mattress. Pretty much, man, Trench's News was not gonna go out like that and have an officer take and rob him for the money. So that's when Trench's News got frustrated, aggravated, and pretty much the officer then placed him in handcuffs and said, "All right," took him to jail, put him in the squad car, and then put extra charges on him for assault, resisting arrest, and also possession. And guess what? The money was never ever turned in. So Ronald Watts ended up pocketing Trench's News money either way and still took him to jail. So when Trench's News is released on bond, he then goes back to the front desk and asks them, hey, where's my property? Like, where's the money I had on me when I was arrested? The front desk says, hey, there's a document here with all the property that you came in with, which was a cell phone, some gum, and some loose change, but there was never no cash in your pockets or turned in by the officer. Of course, Trench's News was fed up, frustrated. He then goes and reports this to the federal agents, man. He calls the FBI, the feds, man, to start an investigation. He goes and he tells them all details of what happened to himself and to others that he's heard about being victims as well by Ronald Watts, the officer, going around the hood, taking people's things. The feds then pretty much charged Ronald Watts and gave him 22 months in federal prison, probation, 8-10 years, and will no longer be able to work for the city or any law enforcement. And now he's a convicted felon, so I guess his valid gun license was also revoked. That was a story that Trench's News explained yesterday in court at the FBG Doug case, man. At the trial, he explained this story. This was back in 2006 when it happened, according to Trench's News' story. The feds then go and confirm that Trench's News had been working with them, and in 2008 and 2011 was another occasion where Trench's News was pretty much another source of telling on another case, other members out there. Trench's News was used to get them convicted as well. Another document that was also brought up in court yesterday was on August 4th when FBG Doug lost his life. 1 hour later, the FBI confirms that they received a phone call from Trench's News. So as soon as the hit happened and the Trench's News found out by other inside sources around his area or family members or even Instagram, whatever, Trench's News suddenly got on the phone and made that 1-800 FBI phone number with the extension straight to the private agent he's been working with all these years. They even go to confirm and say they have a voicemail Trench's News had left after the agent was not in his office. A voicemail from Trench's News 1 hour after the shooting of FBG Doug murder. You can hear Trench's News in this voicemail. The officer then, next morning returns the call back to Trench's News, where then, all the details and him being now cooperative informant and witness was then began. They opened a new document for witness protection and such, and the whole, funding him the money that he was promised for working along with the feds to break down the case of the individuals responsible for FBG Doug's murder. So a lot of people are saying, man, Trench's News really did have some sincere, genuine love for FBG Doug, man. The friendship, the relationship that, FBG Doug had with Trench's News. And that's why Trench's News, being a real friend, did not hesitate. Right within 1 hour after his friend is murdered, he gets on the phone and calls FBI. A lot of people are saying Trench's News was just all about the money, and he knew how he was gonna pretty much convince the FBI to have to pay him if they wanted more details on who was the suspects, man. So Trench's News allegedly took advantage of this opportunity to get the $24,000 that he ended up getting paid. 15 different payments sent to Trench's News. In the end, $24,000. They even say Trench's News took so much advantage of this situation where, he was still living at his mama's house in the hood in the trenches that he used his opportunity to also claim to the FBI that he needed to be placed in witness protection and he needed to be relocated, as in the FBI needed to provide him with either expenses to hotels or rent him out an apartment somewhere else or rent him a house somewhere else just for him to cooperate with them. So the FBI really needed Trench's news. They had already seen the files of the other cases he was involved with. So of course, that's also another thing that, Trench's news gained from speaking to the FBI. They pretty much let him live rent free in a whole different relocation. Probably a nice bigger apartment, nice house, nice community, different neighborhood. And Trench's news with a whole $25,000 being sent to his bank account. Damn. So in 2008, 2011, man, Trench's news was already known by the FBI, man, by the feds for cooperating with them, and he had already helped them solve 2 other cases with 2 other different individuals, man, in 2008, 2011. So that's how he became one of the key witnesses or cooperated individuals in now this FBG Duck trial. We're going to keep y'all updated with what's going on throughout the week. Y'all already know, man. Hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. We got more and more. There's a lot of things being revealed in this trial. Don't miss out. Subscribe. And y'all already know, man. Hit the comment section. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions on Trench's news. And that also, he's been an informant for years. I'm out.